This week, is Florida getting ready to go bust? Here's what every reverse mortgage professional should know in our exclusive interview with Lorraine Geraci.
Building relationships is the way Mutual of Omaha has grown into one of the leading financial services companies in the world. Our reverse mortgage wholesale division is proud to carry on this 100-plus year tradition. To your borrowers, a reverse mortgage is more than a transaction. It's a promise of a better, more stress-free life. Our goal is to provide you, our valued client, with the best service and support possible so you can focus on helping your borrowers achieve the retirement of their dreams.
Welcome back to the Industry Leader Update. A little less than 4 years ago, Florida became a magnet state for Americans seeking lower taxes, more affordable housing, and a warmer climate. In the COVID and post-COVID era, Florida was one of the nation's most sought-after places to move. Fewer lockdown restrictions, a lower cost of living, and an improved quality of life for former city dwellers. In fact, Florida held 10 of U-Haul's top 25 growth cities of 2021. Florida's population grew by over 200,000 residents from July 2020 to 2021, and even more in 2022. But today, Floridians are facing a host of challenges, which in part include skyrocketing homeowners insurance premiums, surging property taxes, and record rent hikes. A dark cloud has begun to form over the Sunshine State. Will housing prices crash? How are retirees in the state being impacted? And will homeowners insurance, will that mess ever get sorted out? For answers to these questions and more, and to learn more about what's actually happening, we thought we'd get an update from the front lines. Please welcome today Lorraine Geraci, a Florida resident, reverse mortgage professional, and corporate trainer. Lorraine, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
You moved to Florida in late 2019, just before the pandemic began. What changes did you notice in the housing market, that is, during 2020 and 2021?
Well, talk about perfect timing, right, Shannon? Obviously, in 20 and 21, the real estate market changed down here immensely. I have a lot of friends in real estate in the mortgage business, and it was such an unprecedented time. Actually, I refer to it a little bit as chaos. I saw it with my own eyes as housing prices did skyrocket, the rents did triple, and people were price bidding way above the listing prices. And the number of cash offers that were coming in was astounding because there was a huge influx of people from the Northeast and from California, where housing is historically higher. And the people sold their homes there, and then they were able to buy things down here in cash. And although Florida is known mostly for its older adult population and retirees, the amount of people with young families and Gen Xers like myself coming here was pretty intense. And even today, it caused such a ripple effect that home prices are still up 58% since 2020.
That's incredible. Now, in late September, my wife and several of our family, we all flew from across the country to the Florida Keys for our son's wedding. But our trip was cut short, and so we weren't able to do some of the activities we'd planned afterwards due to Hurricane Ian. What changes have you seen since Hurricane Ian struck Florida in late September 2022?
Yeah, it was actually my first hurricane experience since I moved here. And thankfully, I wasn't affected by it, but so many people were. It was a really tough time. And I can speak from personal experience also that due to the economy, also the cost of living that's increased nationwide, Floridians had an added issue with the hurricane because insurance premiums surged. And most of the homeowners now are paying about $6,000 a year, which is a 42% increase from the year prior. Also, it's due to rising building costs and a lot of fraudulent lawsuits as well. And it makes it a lot more difficult, especially for older homeowners, to really, have sustainability here financially to stay in place.
So you mentioned fraudulent lawsuits. What have you heard about the specifics of that?
Well, aside from the fact that, a lot of people will inflate the cost in order to do repairs on properties, so the insurance companies have to pay more. Unfortunately, that does happen. I remember going to a MBA meeting, and they had insurance people come in and explain to all these mortgage professionals what some of the things that they were seeing, like especially from roofing companies in particular, right? So a lot of them would come in and inflate a new roof or a roof repair in order to get additional revenue from the insurance companies. So it was a really tough time, with a lot of that going on. In addition to that, and then you had contractors coming in from out of state trying to tell people that they were licensed contractors to do work when they really weren't, just to take money and take advantage of these poor people that had some devastating things happen to them. So that certainly doesn't help the situation any, that's for sure.
It seems that fraud and disasters go hand in hand. Now, Florida is a very interesting housing market, and before the show we were speaking about your friend who's a real estate agent, and I know you have others that you network with. What have you heard about the housing metros that are seeing the biggest price gains?
Yeah, as you can imagine, Shannon, a lot of the cities or areas that are closest to the water, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, here in Naples, Marco Island, Sarasota, West Palm Beach, just to name a few, they're also close to airports. So these are areas that saw the biggest hikes in the housing market, as well as taxes and insurance. Also, the middle of the state really still has some lower home prices and rents because they're really less popular for people to either, move to or live there. And another thing to note too that I found really interesting, Shannon, is that our older adult homeowners, 79% of people between 64 and 74 are homeowners, and 77% of people over 75 as well. So that's a big group of people that are in or near retirement that are being affected by all these soaring costs, the economy, and also the insurance premiums. Because even if somebody didn't make a claim, to the insurance company after the hurricane, we all had to pay. And that's one of the reasons for myself why I sold my home last summer, was because of those hikes as well.
Incredible. Now, you spoke of soaring prices and costs. With that happening, I know there's a lot of construction going on in Florida. What's going on with condominiums? Can reverse mortgage applicants still get approved in a condo development?
Yeah, so funny enough, I happen to be in Southwest Florida. And if you can see the amount of condo buildings and apartments that are being built right now, you'd be amazed. As much as it's a good idea to offer more affordable housing, it's not really much cheaper, because most of the properties that these condos are in are overseen by an HOA, and the quarterly fees associated with being in that HOA is much higher for condos than it even is for single family properties. So even if somebody buys a more affordable condo, they're going to wind up paying more in HOA fees and offset with some insurance costs as well. And then the other issue that is faced down here is many of these condo properties in these HOAs do not allow FHA loans of any kind. And, it's really very difficult for people to be able to get approved for any type of FHA product, including our HECM. And unfortunately, from what I hear, that's done on purpose. And in my opinion, it's very discriminatory, but it does do a disservice to folks that are looking to purchase or refinance a condo with an FHA home equity conversion mortgage. Some proprietary products offered by some of the lenders may be applicable, but it depends on the value as well as the principal limit factors too.
It's almost as if they're quote unquote redlining HECMs out of these condo developments.
Yep. My own aunt who lives, and uncle that live on the east coast of Florida, they live in a beautiful condo right on the intercoastal that the value has grown astronomically. And I even looked into a reverse mortgage from them, and their association will not even talk about it or allow it. And what a shame, because many of the people had gotten an assessment, like when they do an assessment, let's say if they get a new roof or they have to do some construction, the homeowners are the ones that have to pay for that. And so many of them don't have that extra cash to be able to do so. So it really does a disservice.
As a reverse mortgage professional and corporate trainer, is there anything as a Florida resident that you would want to pass on to reverse mortgage professionals watching today?
Well, first of all, we have a handful, at least in my knowledge, of some amazing reverse mortgage professionals in Florida, all across the state. So they're doing such a wonderful job, but can't do it alone. And aside from the fact that the percentage of people here are age appropriate for reverse is higher than most areas in the country, the national average is 17% across the country. But in my county that I live in down here alone, the average is people over the age of 65 is 30%. So the opportunities here, especially for the purchase product, is not only astounding, but not as known as it should be. Educating the massive amount of real estate professionals that work here is certainly one way of doing it. And there's so many realtor and builder associations in Florida. I was astonished by it, actually. And I've had the pleasure of educating a few hundred of these folks myself over the years. And a cash buyer is not always the right way to go. I love teaching real estate people this as well, because it's really not allowing them to have liquidity they need for other retirement needs. And it's such a good idea to be able to offer choices. And even though there's some state-related differences with the HECM program in Florida, and the housing cost burden for Florida homeowners is among the highest in the nation. So, and lastly, Shannon, I got to tell you, real estate professionals are finally starting to see a decrease in home prices here. The interest rates are higher, right? So is the insurance that we mentioned before. So using equity to either relocate to here in Florida from somewhere else using the purchase program, or using a refinance at your existing primary residence, wherever that might be, to be able to purchase option. And there are so many choices for people now. And the more we as an industry are educating and marketing to these folks with the right information, the more that we can assist the largest demographic of people that are going to need housing choices in our lifetime and for many years to come.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. Lorraine has graciously agreed to answer your questions in the comment section here on HeckhamWorld.com. So leave your questions or comments down below. And I think Lorraine has brought a wealth of insight on the Florida market, a very unique situation that residents there are facing, both challenges and opportunities. Thanks so much for joining us for today's episode. Don't forget to share this episode on LinkedIn with other mortgage professionals, whether they're traditional or reverse. And also, we have a YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe there. That way you never miss an upcoming episode. And each and every week, we curate the top stories that are reverse mortgage related for mortgage professionals. You can find us on Apple Music, Spotify, and of course here at HeckhamWorld.com. Thanks so much for joining us, and be sure to return next week for more reverse mortgage news, commentary, and analysis you'll only find here at Heckham World. Have a great week.